This sort of a week came up kind of spontaneous. Right. Yeah, well, a woman organized it and she sent around notices in the church bulletins and then she had it noticed in the paper.
Yeah, kind of quickly. I'm not even sure I would have known about it except when the organizers came into the library where I worked to run off copies of the notices. I doubt that I would have known about it.
And the idea was just to get people from the surrounding communities who wanted to visit.
Yeah, I think what has happened from what I can tell talking to people is that there are a lot of people in the surrounding communities, and Geneva in particular, who have been frustrated by things that have gone on and have wanted to, I think, have a lot of sympathy for what's going on here, and yet, you know, it's just been so tumultuous. And like I said, the letters from the editor have been very interesting. And you know, there have been some good intelligent ones, but there's been a lot of
Order for the paper next time. So, I think they've planned on doing stories, but I can't actually answer. You know, she's kind of biased about it. Who was that? I'm not sure she was. Doris hasn't ever written a story about it.
Okay, if you run into my Kim Blacklock, give her a shout.
I don't know. I had a talk with her the other day, and I got the indication. I wasn't sure about that. I think I would say she was more
Doris? Yes. Unsympathetic with the camps?
From what she said to me, she said.
Is that how he got here?
Generally, I try to. Yeah, I try not to get into it.
Which side? The west side?
Okay. Yeah. Do you know where she can go?
I'll tell you.
Take it to a place. I know. See, he can find things to do.
If any of these kids want to go for a walk, I just have to walk there. Everybody with me, right?
Oh, really?
Okay. You see which way she went?
There she is. That's the one that I went right in the path of. I did too. Well, you look self-conscious. I was just walking and I started. Come on, no. You coming? You gonna go,
She's already going, honey. You follow them, all right?
Does Dunbar think of going back here?
Maybe I'll throw a little walk.
Do you find that this is taking
Sorry. That's okay. And all those gifts.
Where did she go with the gal? To the bathroom? Oh, okay.
Well, she wasn't hello there.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
I bet you wonder where Dad is, don't you? Not
Sure.
Matter of fact, no. All self-explanatory. Right.
I guess you would very soon come up against it. Couldn't go very far off.
I bought it from the group that at the folk festival at Hobart back in May or June that is connected to Mike and Art.
No. Do you want to walk around? Walk around? Yeah, let's walk around.
You know, has some good people have their time like that. Different spirit of people who have to confront aggression all the time, and it gives her a day.
We're really glad to see so many of you here. And what we're going to do is give you a wonderful experience now called orientation. Yay! Now some people think orientation is bizarre and weird, but we know better. It's wonderful. It'll be an experience of your afternoon. In order to do this, we need to have two groups because there are so many of you that it's absolutely impossible to do a fun orientation with this many people. So what we need to do is to have some of you go over into that part of the yard and some of you go over in this part of the yard. And we can have two groups. But before you do that, let me tell you what's going to happen. After we do an orientation, there's going to be a discussion following for the men that are here on why a women's peace encampment. And there's going to be time for the women to go back and see where we wash our hands. Pretty exciting, huh? You didn't know this was going to be so much fun, did you? There will be question and answer periods at the end of the orientation sessions, too, so if you've got some burning questions, maybe we shouldn't say burning. It's been real dry out here. If you have any questions, you know, we'll be able to take on your questions at that time. And there's also a videotape for later on July 4th. And you're going to be real excited. And we even have ta-da-da-da-da-da, facing the facts. This is a lovely flip chart of charts. It has all kinds of factual information. We're going to cover some of that in our orientation. But for those of you who are really avid learners, burning to know the issues, to take them back, and to talk to your neighbors over coffee and Danish, the answers are on here if we don't get to them in orientation, okay? Great. See how many questions we had there? If we could just have two groups, we'll begin this wonderful experience. Glad to have so many of you here, okay? Which side are we on? Which side are you on? I thought I'm going to do this side because I want to do. So am I. We are all lefties here. All right.
Jan.
Two. Yeah, that was what's known as consensus. In fact, that was one of the best examples I've seen of it. Let's stop using it now, as long as we've got one good experience with it. Consensus style, somebody said, I got a list of things that I was supposed to cover. And the last thing was on consensus, so I'll just turn this thing over and we'll start there. Consensus style of operating for some people feels like it's kind of useless. But what we just did there was we managed to come to a decision that everybody could agree on, and that seems like a real healthy way to go. What happened one day, we had some women from the Rochester Jewish community came in. Lovely women came in and brought this banquet of food for us. We just went crazy. And they came in to do Shabbat services at the gate on Friday. And what happened was they had a little meeting before they went to the gate, and they were trying to decide whether they should really go to the gate or they should have it here. And somebody said, all right, let's vote on it. And as she started to say, let's vote on it, this woman put her hand down and said, they don't do it that way here. And no one knew how we did it. So then this woman said, well, it goes like this. I propose that we do the Shabbat service at the gate, at the main gate tonight in a little while. And let's talk about it. So then we talked about how we felt about whether or not we were going to do that. And after a while, they said, okay, well, we've heard the proposal. Are there any major objections? There were no major objections. Everyone agreed to the same thing. Shabbat services went on. Consensus works real well in some instances and not real well in others. One of the things that you've probably heard about is a little piece of cloth material that's created a lot of stir. Some people call it the flag. Sometimes I just talk about it as a cloth material because it seems so volatile around here that I'm not sure I even want to use the word. The flag issue, as we call it, has needed some explanation, and so I'd like to offer you kind of a brief explanation of what happened with the flag.
A long time ago, back before the encampment started, a man named Mr. Moran, who was a local man, presented a flag to us as a gift and suggested that we accept it and that we fly the flag on our land. And we told him that we worked with consensus and that we'd have to, have everybody agree to that gift, and so we'd have to meet about it. And so meetings were held, and the discussion was talked about forever. Some people said, well, it would certainly be good for community relations if we flew the flag. And I have no problems with the flag because I'm a patriotic American and the flag means good things to me about freedom and other things. Some women said, yeah, but a lot of women are coming here from different parts in the world, and this feels like a global encampment and not a U.S. encampment, and I'd rather that the fact that we're global than that we emphasize that we're United States people. Others said, well, I have some real hard times with the flag because I've worked in developing countries. That flag means a lot of oppression to some people, and it means a lot of pain. So I don't know about flying the flag. It doesn't feel good to me. Discussion went on and on and on. They couldn't reach a consensus. So what happened was they drafted a letter to Mr. Moran, said, thank you very much for your offer of the flag, but we work by consensus, and they explained what consensus was and said, we just couldn't reach it on the flag, so we can't accept your offer. He said, well, if we couldn't accept the offer, that he was going to go to the press and tell them that we wouldn't fly the flag, and we knew that at the time he offered it to us. It was not an offer without strings attached. And since we didn't accept the flag, he kept his promise. He went to the newspapers and told them that we weren't going to fly the flag. There was another meeting that lasted all day long. This is consensus. 6 hours anyway. There were 5 women who really wanted to fly the flag. There were 5 women who really did not want to fly the flag. And there were 5 brave souls who said, we'll help mediate this. And so the 15 of them met for 6 hours. And at the end of the 6 hours, the only thing they talked about was the flag. At the end of that time, they said, well, what we'll do is we'll have women make their own flags, and we'll fly a bunch of flags on the 4th of July. And people can make whatever it is that feels like a good flag for them. 48 flags were made. 2 of them were United States flags. And 46 of them were on animals and people and families and love and other kinds of things. And we flew them on this clothesline kind of thing across the front of the encampment. They were all made on pillowcases. They all had to be the same size. The fact of the matter was the encampment flew the flag on the 4th of July. But then CBS came. You all know about CBS. CBS came, and unfortunately they ignored our need to have female photographers and reporters to cover on the back of the land, and they showed up with an entirely male team. We had told them what the policy would be, and we asked them to send women. From my perspective, I thought that was very supportive of my women, in the sisters in journalism and stuff, but they didn't think it was. They thought it was discriminatory. They were real upset. They said, if you won't let us on the land to do this, then we're going to blow up the flag issue. They kept their promise. We kept ours. We kept to our policy of this being a women's encampment.
But did they really say that? We're going to blow up the flag issue?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So that was an example of the consensus thing. So what happened? It was on the 4th of July. A brave woman who wanted to make a statement about beauty and about life decided she would plant a rose bush in front of the main gate of the depot and say, we're for things that grow and for things that smell good and for life. And the rose has long time been a symbol for life. And so we planted, a bunch of us went down there, we planted this rose bush. Later, flags were stuck into it. They were plastic flags. They were about the ugliest flags you'd ever seen in your life. Even people who liked the flags couldn't stand those 2 flags. So what happened was there was some more controversy because people didn't want those ugly flags by the rose bush, so they took them out and they rolled them up, and some people were really upset and they were dancing around and doing all of this stuff, and so the flags disappeared from the rose bush area. Contrary to some opinions, flags were never danced upon, buried underground, talked about vilely, spit on, burned, or any of the other kinds of things that I could think of that maybe one could do to a flag. None of that happened. But what did happen was there were some people who were upset that the flags were missing, and they wanted another flag to be brought back in. And some lovely Buddhists who had walked here from Boston, who were really nifty people, brought this beautiful flag in. It was a nice fabric flag, and they had a little purification ceremony to say, there's been some problems here, let's heal these things up, and let's do it right. And they did this ceremony over the flag, and they put it back by the rose bush, and there was a consensus that we leave the flag where it was. Well, you know, the rose bush eventually disappeared from that area, and there's a couple of flags that are still there. What we've come to is a place where we know that we can't really agree on the flag issue. There are some people who still believe it's important to fly it, and there's some people who still have the same arguments. We know we can't come to consensus on it. So the only thing we can say is, hey, we flew the flag on the 4th of July, we flew some other flags on the 4th of July, and some of us like it and some of us don't. Pretty brief and to the point, right? That takes care of consensus and flag right there. I want to make sure that I get the concerns. I don't know who wrote these concerns up, but I want to make sure that I take care of these before anything else. There's been a question about money. I always have questions about money. It didn't seem out of place to me at all to have questions about money. And I want to tell you about some of the sponsors of this place so you can figure out. There was a rumor around that Russia bought the farm. I don't think Russia's really into being supportive of us. But let me tell you about who is supportive. The American Friends Service Committee, the National Women's Program of Church Women United, Fellowship of Reconciliation, the New England War Tax Resistance, Nuclear Weapons Facilities Network, the Rochester Peace and Justice Education Center, Syracuse Peace Council, Upstate Feminist Peace Alliance, Upstate Peace Network, the War Resisters League, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and the New York Women's Pentagon Action, just to name a few. Now what I know from that list is that a whole lot of respectable folk have helped get us here, get this land, and make this thing happen. What we do know is that when people drive onto the land, we ask them to do two things. We ask them to help out here, to do some kind of daily work, and we suggest that people do 3 hours worth of work. Somehow we need some contributions to keep going, so some of it is work. Some people are able to put money in the till to help us. It costs $7 a day for a woman who camps here to eat, to be on the land, to have the water that we buy, that we bring in every week. It costs $7 a day. So we ask people to do that. But the other thing that we ask them to do is to adhere to a policy of nonviolence. Now, nonviolence is really spelled out in our handbook, which has just been reprinted, thank goodness. It's called the Women's Encampment for a Future of Peace and Justice Handbook. Clever name, huh? We stayed up all night coming up with that one.
And it's for sale, right?
And it is for sale, and it's for sale in that lean-to over there with the green tarps that are being so dastardly windblown. But in the handbook, it basically tells you what we define nonviolence. It means that we're not going to do name-calling, no verbal harassment kinds of things, and that we're not going to do physical violence to another person. Some of us disagree about what other things are violent and nonviolent. We talk about it all the time. We're always trying to hash out what we feel about it. I'm a person who personally believes that when you destroy property, that feels violent to me. That's my personal thing. However, if I were standing in front of a nuclear warhead, I would probably attack it viciously with my pocket knife or hammer, depending on which was closest. That seems like non-property to me, and that feels all right to me to think about doing that. And if I had a guidance system in front of me, you can bet that I'd probably whack away at that too. We disagree, though, in the encampment about what that means in terms of destruction of property. I have a little bit of an inconsistency in that when we first came here, we got all the way up to the gates, and some of us got really excited about being at the gates, and we were really angry, and we were shaking the gates, and they needed to be replaced after we got there. So they painted a line, a yellow line from the front of the entrance of all of the gates, which kept us away from the gate, and they said, if you cross this line, you're trespassing. To me, that felt like grade school. Billy, you crossed that line, you're gonna get it! And when I heard that, I really pick up absurdities. You know, I think absurdities are hysterical. So one of the actions that followed this with the yellow line was a bunch of people went up and painted other lines and other things. Now that felt reasonably harmless to me, and that's my inconsistency, I'll tell you that. I didn't mind at all that they had to spend a little bit of effort tarring over a couple of things that were painted there to show the absurdity of all of it. That's my inconsistency. Again, we are in the process always of deciding what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And how all of that gets organized is in something we call CD, which does not stand in this camp for chemical dependency. It stands for not civil defense, but civil disobedience. You can tell that any of you who know anything about church stuff probably have recognized that I'm wearing a church shirt without the plastic in it. It's just in my pocket. I'm here because I'm a woman of faith, and I think it's important that I be here, and I feel sent to be here. Some other people are not. But one of the reasons that I'm here is because I feel God has directed me personally to participate in acts of civil disobedience. In other words, I am willing personally to blockade an entrance to the depot so that business as usual cannot go on there, so that we have to stop and think about what we're doing. And I'm willing to put my body on the line to say I need to stop that. Personally, I'm not a fence climber. It doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense to me. It does to some other women here. But I am a blockader, and I am feeling like that means that I'm called to do civil disobedience. So what I did when I